Tom DeWeese, is one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property rights, personal privacy, back-to-basics education, and American sovereignty and independence. Tom is a businessman, grassroots activist, writer, and publisher. He has always held a firm belief in the need for all Americans to preserve their constitutionally guaranteed rights. He is founder and president of the American Policy Center, a grassroots organization dedicated to the promotion of free enterprise and limited government regulations over commerce and individuals. Tom is the editor of the DeWeese Report and author of the new book, Now Tell Me I Was Wrong. Let's welcome to the Global Freedom Report, Tom DeWeese. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm well, Brent. Good to be with you.
Thank you. You've been around for, 4 decades or so, Tom. How would you characterize the current attitudes and temperament of the American people with respect to their government as opposed to how it looked, say, 40 years ago?
I think that this is maybe one of the most exciting times I've ever lived in, because I see people finally listening. All these years that we've been trying to issue the warnings and tell people, if they pass this bill in Congress, they pass that bill that's going to have these consequences, and people couldn't see it, didn't pay any attention, didn't listen. And today they're seeing the consequences of that. They're rising up angry. And I made a comment a few months back that for the first time in my life, I actually believe that I may see our republic restored in my lifetime.
So I take it that's your answer to my question of the day there. You do not think that we are fighting at windmills, and you do not think we've passed a point of no return, that we've gone too far over to socialism to come back to free market principle.
Yeah, no, I really don't. I believe that a lot of these things we've known for a long time are just a house of cards. Take, for example, the global warming issue. I've never seen an issue collapse so rapidly as that issue did in the last year, and I believe a whole lot of other things that we're fighting are going to have the same collapse as people begin to stand up and they will not take their foot off the road of elected officials, continuing to pressure them to do the right thing. I think that's going to grow, and I don't think business as usual is going to fly anymore.
How close are we to an actual uprising in the United States? And by the way, I'm not talking about this, you've raised our tuition and we students are upset over it. I'm talking about an uprising over the significant issues.
I think we're having that uprising now. I think that's what the Tea Party movement is. And it's fun to watch those who, in Washington, the Washington Post and the New York Times and places like that, trying to analyze the Tea Party movement and think, yeah, this is just another bunch of people who are protesting, and tomorrow they'll be gone, and tomorrow it's business as usual. And it's not happening, and they keep scratching their heads saying, whoops, now they keep going. I think we're having that uprising now, and that's what I find so exciting.
Well, what do you think about what's going on up in Wisconsin? That's over collective bargaining with government unions, so it's a money issue, but nevertheless, the rhetoric is really stepping up. The governor's now, we just did a story, head of one of the National Guard or somebody or other, in Wisconsin said, hey, the Law Enforcement Association of Wisconsin said, hey, look, it would be terrible if the governor says he wants us to put down the protests, but we'll do it if he orders us to do so. I mean, the rhetoric is really stepping up there.
Yeah, the situation with these public unions, public employee unions, people are demanding that government cut its costs. And the cost of the employees who are protected by these unions is the major cost, particularly, in running in the states. And how are these governors supposed to cut costs if, they can't control what these unions. The unions continue to demand more and more money and more benefits. Here we are in a situation where the entire economy is on the verge of collapse. We've got to cut somewhere, but they continue to demand more money. At no time have they stood up and said, we understand things are bad. We're going to put on a hiring freeze, or we're going to put on a salary cap, or we're going to give back some of the benefits, because what they are showing is that they don't care one whit about the taxpayers who are paying their salaries. They are demanding what they want, and it's interesting that the media has portrayed the Tea Party movement as being a hate operation, and yet you listen to the rhetoric that is taking place in the state houses where these protesters are, and I've never heard things that they're saying in these places in a Tea Party rally. This is where the true hate is, and these guys just refuse to give up an inch of what they have and what they've taken from the taxpayer. And I again, based on some things we said earlier, I find this very exciting that the governor of Wisconsin, the governor of Indiana, the governor of Ohio are standing up and saying we're not going to put up with this anymore. So again, there is revolt taking place, and this is an interesting one.
And I have to say that I agree with you in terms of the reasoning behind these protests. This is why I am an anti-union person. I don't believe in unions. I believe in individuality. Each individual needs to argue for his best contract, needs to negotiate for his best agreement, not tell others, you negotiate for me. So I am completely opposed to unions. I think unions work against a free market. However, we have a unionized system both in and out of government. We have encouraged it. We've cultivated it. This is why it's unsustainable, and I don't know that there is any solution to this. What the governor's doing may be necessary, but what it's going to end up doing is escalating the conflict. It's the same thing, same reason that, that we have education in the toilet because of the unions. Same reason that we have California in an untenable position because the unions have essentially mandated, well, it's not even the unions there, it's the federal government that has mandated so much that it takes it out of the budget. But all of these automated payments, all of these systems designed to automatically make sure some class of people are benefiting, in this case, the teachers union, the government union, whatever it is, they're destined for collapse for this exact reason. They can't be sustained economically. The governor's being told he can't say no. He's going to say yes anyway, and there's going to be some fighting.
Yeah, I agree with you about the unions, and I've watched firsthand. I was back when I was an activist in Ohio, in my home state. I testified before a state legislative committee dealing with a public unions issue, and had to do with their public bargaining. And I watched firsthand how these guys operated behind the scenes, the viciousness that they have. And first of all, I don't believe, whether you believe that unions should exist or not in the private sector, I certainly don't believe they should exist in the public sector. Taxpayer has no say in this thing, and he only has to pay, the bills. And they make it so that you can't fire them, so you can't reduce the workforce no matter what. And so it's all stacked against the taxpayers. And I welcome the fact that finally we are having this debate, put it mildly. And I hope that the end of it is that people wake up and get rid of these public unions.
Agenda 21. It was going to change the world. However, we haven't really heard much about it for quite some time. Would you remind everyone what Agenda 21 purports to do and tell us where it currently is in that process?
Well, Agenda 21, was what's called a soft law policy that was first introduced out of the United Nations Earth Summit in 1992. It is a blueprint for what Al Gore called the wrenching transformation away from the horrors of the 20th century industrial revolution. And if you think about that for a minute, you'll understand why this thing is so bad, because it is a wrenching transformation. It is a strange mixture of socialism, fascism, and corporatism that all these things combined to literally control every aspect of our lives. A lot of people think it's just about conservation or good environmental stewardship. The proponents of it tell us that this is just about preserving our natural resources for future generations. That's all we want to do. What it really is is locking away land, locking away natural resources, and it affects every aspect of our lives. One aspect of Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, is called smart growth, which is nothing but putting a wall around every city and saying we're not going to allow what they call urban sprawl, that we're going to just live within these city limits. There'll be no infrastructure outside of that. Well, what you've done then is you've created a shortage of land, a shortage of housing. Everything connected to sustainable development means higher prices, higher energy prices, higher property prices. They want to control water. Every aspect of our lives, you have to control population if you've got an artificial limit on land. All of that is part of Agenda 21. The fact that the government will not shut our borders and allow the illegals to come flooding across the border is part of Agenda 21. A major aspect of it is what they call social justice or social equity. This is where it gets away from conservation and it gets into all these other aspects in our lives. According to the sustainabilists, it is a social injustice to have borders on your country. It is a social injustice to have private property. So you begin to get the idea what this is.
Well, that's textbook Marxism. I mean that each receives according to his needs, each contributes according to his skills, and that's all there is. In other words, we all are in this together, and we must share whatever we do with others. The problem with that is that, and this is what the socialists never acknowledge, some people believe in hard work. Other people believe in suckling off the state and doing nothing. That creates a disparity in earnings when you have a free market, and a disparity in recognition when you don't.